Have you all ever read like a really funny warning label? Like you get a product and there's warning labels on it, so you read the warning and there's just something on there that's like, it's so hilarious, it literally makes you laugh out loud. Well, I found 6 that I thought were very funny, and so I'm going to share those with you this morning as we begin. On a chainsaw, do not hold the wrong end of the chainsaw. I'm really sorry, but if you can't figure out which end of the chainsaw to hold, you probably shouldn't be holding it at all. That's all I'm saying. You probably shouldn't be running it at all. On a box of Christmas lights, these lights are designed for indoors or outdoor use only. Wasn't aware that there was a third use. Is there some kind of space-time fabric that I'm unaware of that you can use Christmas lights in besides indoor and outdoor? I thought those were the only 2 options that we had. On a hair dryer, this is the whole instruction sheet for a hair dryer, and this is what it says in one spot: do not use while bathing. How on earth did a person think that they could dry their hair faster than the shower puts the water out? That's all I'm wondering. Or on the same hair dryer, do not use while sleeping. I can't tell you how many times I've gone to sleep, waked, and woke up drying my hair in the middle of the night. That was crazy. All right, and then on the same one, this one, I wasn't going to use it, but I was thinking about it more last night. I was like, no, I'm going to put it in there. Same hair dryer says, do not use where there's an aerosol spray going on. I'm thinking that. I didn't have that idea in the first place, but that sounds like a pretty cool flamethrower. They just gave me an idea. They didn't warn me against anything. And you can go to the store, literally right now. You can go to Walmart, walk back to the milk section, and on this carton of milk, under the ingredients, it says, contains milk. I kid you not. It says contains milk. I don't even know how to describe my thoughts on that one. Now, there are definitely some funny warnings out there, and I suspect that there are 2 reasons that these are so funny to us. First, they seem pretty obvious to anyone who has common sense that you're going to use indoor or outdoor Christmas lights, either indoor or outdoors, and that milk contains milk, and you should hold the right end of the chainsaw. You know, most of us are like, right? But think about this. Every single warning on a product is there because somebody in the world did something stupid that they shouldn't have, right? I mean, imagine writing this letter. Dear Walmart, I was in your store last Saturday when I found myself in front of the milk refrigerator. I just found out that I'm lactose intolerant, so I made my selection and went home, only to find out that your vitamin D whole milk has milk in it. I couldn't believe it. Please get back to me as soon as possible. That's silly, right? But someone somewhere had to have written a letter like this so that they had to include that on their packaging. So those of us with common sense don't understand why some of these warnings exist. And the second reason that these are so funny is that they're a surprise to us. I'm sure that there is someone out there who reads all the safety warnings before they use their brand new toy, but most of us who are not crazy, we just throw those away. We dive right into using that new product, ignoring all the safety warnings because we have a good amount of common sense. So then when we hear these goofy warnings, we're surprised because we're like, why does that even exist? Why did somebody even think that? It was kind of like that. Well, the first one was the hot coffee. Remember back in like the 90s or early 2000s, some lady spilled hot coffee on herself, and she was like, I didn't know it was hot. Iced coffee wasn't even a thing then. But here we go. We're surprised. Well, in our text today, we're going to see that Jesus gives the disciples a warning. In just a short amount of time, they are going to see Jesus perform a miracle. They're going to listen to Jesus dismantle the Pharisees, and Jesus will give them a big warning sign to keep them from danger. His warning was a warning for them to see him for who he truly is. It was a warning for them not to become hard-hearted. It was a warning for them to avoid unbelief. This warning that Jesus gives for them is also for us too. Don't be like most of us and toss out the warning that is written in the instruction manual this morning. Don't be the guy who was so annoyed by his low light low oil light that he just put a piece of black tape over the dashboard so he wouldn't have to see it. Like he ignored low oil light. The only thing that happens when we ignore the warning of Jesus is disaster. So let's look at this morning. And I honestly didn't even that rhyme, morning this morning. That's pretty good though. I'm glad it did. But the warning's found in Mark chapter 8, verses 1 through 21. In those days there was again a large crowd, and they had nothing to eat. He called the disciples and said to them, I have compassion on the crowd, because they have already stayed with me for 3 days and have nothing to eat. If I send them home hungry, they will collapse on the way, and some of them have come a long distance. His disciples answered him, where can anyone get enough bread here in this desolate place to feed these people? How many loaves do you have? He asked them. 7, they said. And he commanded the crowd to sit down on the ground. Taking the 7 loaves, he gave thanks, broke them, and gave them to his disciples to set before the people. So they served them to the crowd. They also had a few small fish, and after he had blessed them, he said these were to be served as well. They ate and were satisfied. Then they collected 7 large baskets of leftover pieces. About 4,000 were there. He dismissed them, and he immediately got into a boat with his disciples and went to the district of Dalmanutha. Yeah, sometimes even the pastor gets confused by how you pronounce some of those wild words, right? But it's Dalmanutha. Verse 11, the Pharisees came and began to argue with him, that's Jesus, demanding of him a sign from heaven to test him. Sighing deeply in his spirit, he said, why does this generation demand a sign? Surely I tell you, no sign will be given to this generation. Then he left them, got back into the boat, and went to the other side. The disciples had forgotten to take bread and had only 1 loaf with them in the boat. Then he gave them strict orders. Watch out, be aware of the leaven of the Pharisees and the leaven of Herod. They were discussing among themselves that they didn't have any bread. Aware of this, he said to them, why are you discussing the fact you have no bread? Don't you understand or comprehend? Do you have hardened hearts? Do you have eyes and not see? Do you have ears and not hear? And do you not remember when I broke the 5 loaves and the 5,000? How many baskets full of leftovers did you collect? 12, they told him. And when I broke the 7 loaves for the 4,000, how many baskets full of pieces did you collect? 7, they said. And he said to them, do you not understand yet? Now this passage could easily be split into 3 or more sermons. However, I'm going to preach it all in one, hopefully shorter sermon for 2 reasons. One, Mark is constantly saying immediately. So to try and honor Mark's fast pace of his gospel, this will be one sermon this morning. Secondly, the warning doesn't make much sense unless you talk about the miraculous feeding and also the interaction with the Pharisees. And so I would split it into 3 sermons, but then each sermon would have so much overlap, what would be the point? Because I'd have to explain the other parts to get to the other parts, and it makes better sense to do it all in one. But this passage is so powerful. It's so powerful, and it has such a powerful warning. Actually, it's not just a warning, it's a double warning. Watch out! Beware! What is so important, what is so critical, what is so significant that it requires not 1, but 2 warnings from Jesus? What were the disciples in danger of missing? Well, Jesus clues us in on the heart of the issue in verses 17 and 18. Hard-hearted, blind, deaf, and forgetful. He's talking about the spiritual condition that misses who he truly is. That he is Jesus Christ, the Messiah, the Son of God, the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, and Prince of Peace. Jesus wasn't some just great guy who lived and had some nice things to say about life. Jesus was the promise in Emmanuel of the Old Testament that God would be with us. Jesus was God in the flesh, and there's something that was happening with the disciples and something that might be happening to us that could cause us to miss that fact. And that is why this passage is so important to us this morning. These men had seen what Jesus had done in the past, but were not trusting him for their present or what he would do for them in the future. And that's a danger for us as well. That in spite of God's faithfulness to us in the past, that we will forget about Him and not trust Him today and not trust Him tomorrow. But I have split this passage into the three sections that would have been the three sermons, because I think it highlights the warning for us very well. And the first section is verses 1 through 10, where Jesus actually feeds the 4,000. And I've titled it, Jesus has a plan, even when we only see a problem. Now this story probably sounds familiar to you, right? Just 2 short chapters ago, Jesus feeds 5,000 people. And those who would try and disprove the Bible or disprove that God exists will point to this passage and the other one and they'll say, look, the gospel writers couldn't get their story straight. Was it 4 or 5,000? Others will say that it was only one feeding, but it was described in 2 different ways at 2 different times. But that doesn't really make sense because I don't know about you, but whenever I'm writing something down, I usually remember what I wrote, like a couple hundred words before, and I forgot that I wrote it down. So it doesn't make sense. The only thing that actually makes sense is that Jesus fed 5,000 people. Well, probably more than 5,000 men, maybe up to 20,000 altogether. And then later on, at a different time and a different place, Jesus also fed 4,000 people. John, in the Gospel of John, chapter 21, verse 25, says this, "There are also many other things that Jesus did, which, if every one of them were written down, I suppose not even the world itself could contain the books that would be written." So, this means that Jesus did a ton of other things that weren't even written down. It says that he fed 5,000 in one place and 4,000 in another place. He might have fed a bunch of people at a bunch of other different times that we don't even have recorded. Because it would take too many books. They recorded these for a specific purpose, though. And while there's a lot of similarities in this story, there are definitely some differences. So I want to highlight those differences. First, in the feeding of 5,000, there were 5,000 men, and then possibly up to 20,000 people. In the feeding of 4,000, it was 4,000 people total. In the 5,000, it was 5 loaves and 2 fish. In the 4,000, it was 7 loaves and a few fish. In the feeding of the 5,000, it was 1 day in the wilderness. In the 4,000, it was 3 days in the wilderness. But for the 5,000, they were north of Galilee. It was probably springtime because it says they sat down in the grass. And in the 4,000, they're southeast of Galilee, somewhere in Gentile territory. And we're not really sure about the timing because it doesn't describe what they were sitting on. In the feeding of the 5,000, there were 12 small basketfuls of food left over. In the feeding of the 4,000, 7 large basketfuls of food. In the feeding of the 5,000, 1 prayer for both items of food at the same time. In the feeding of the 4,000, there's 2 prayers, 1 for each food item. In the 5,000, it was mostly a Jewish crowd. Jesus was just north of Galilee, still in Jewish territory. But here, in the 4,000, it was a mostly Gentile crowd because they were in the area of the Decapolis, and so it would be mostly Gentiles. In the 5,000, the disciples worried about the cost of the food. Where are we going to get enough money to feed all these people? In the 4,000, the disciples are worried about the location. Where are we going to find enough in this desolate place? So while there are a lot of similarities, there are definitely some differences. But all the truths of the feeding of the 5,000 are the same truths in the feeding of the 4,000. You may remember those truths this way. Jesus had great compassion. And in this instance, we see it's not just for the Jewish people, but also for the Gentiles. Jesus provides for all of our needs. And only Jesus satisfies. Jesus is more than enough. More than simply satisfying stomachs, Jesus satisfies souls. What's more, Jesus even points out that these were 2 separate feedings. In this chapter, in these verses that we just read, in verse 19 and 20, he says, "Don't you remember when I fed the 5,000? Don't you remember when I fed the 4,000? Certainly Jesus wasn't confused about how many times and how many people he fed. But Jesus had a plan. And the disciples, they only saw a problem. They were in a hopeless situation with 3-day hungry people in a hopeless location in the middle of the desert. I don't know about you, but after about, 6 or 7 hours, I'm pretty hungry. And I get pretty, what they call, hangry. You know what hangry is? When you're kind of grumpy, upset because you're hungry. And these guys went 3 days in the desert with Jesus. They're 3 days in the desert. The disciples saw a problem. This situation prompted the disciples to look to the Lord to meet the need, but they should have looked to the Lord, but they were only looking at the landscape. But how often do you and I do the same thing? How many times have you been in a challenging and hopeless and helpless situation, and all you could see was directly what was going on around you? You see, we're more like the disciples than we like to admit. When trials come, we might look around and fix our eyes on the obstacles that are in our way, all the problems that we will face, how impossible our situation seems. Lord, how am I ever going to get out of this? There's no possible way. But Jesus wants us to fix our eyes on Him. Jesus is the author and the perfecter of our faith, and He calls us to lay aside every hindrance that so easily entangles us. He is there to give us strength so that we will not grow weary and give up. That's what Hebrews chapter 12 says. Jesus is our only hope. He is our only hope. There is no life situation that we will face that is too big for Jesus to handle. And there's no life situation that is too small that we shouldn't turn to Christ for help. You may be tempted to think, oh, that's not that big a deal. I think I can handle that on my own without God. Let me tell you something. You can't. Even the small things, you can't. You can't. I love what I read one time. Someone asked me, do I need Jesus to go to heaven? And the person replied, honey, I need Jesus to go to Walmart. There's no situation too big, and especially now with the coronavirus, right? You definitely need Jesus to go to Walmart. There's no situation too big. There's no situation that is too small that we should not include Christ in it. Amen. The disciples had a great opportunity to exercise and demonstrate their faith, and they missed it. When Jesus came to them and they pointed to the landscape, they should have said, Lord, you're our only hope. But Jesus steps in, showing that He cares, providing for their need, and satisfying their stomachs and their souls. There's one final lesson here. A little bit is a lot in the hands of Jesus. Amen. A little bit is a lot in the hands of Jesus. Maybe you think, I don't really have much to offer Christ. I'm not smart enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not eloquent enough. I'm not popular enough. I'm not good looking enough. I'm not powerful enough. Enough. Let me lay a hard truth on you. You aren't enough. None of us are. Even the greatest heroes of our faith in the Bible, even those that we look to in Christian history, every one of them on their own was not enough. But Christ is enough. And if we have Christ in our life, we can take the little bit that we have and put it all into the hands of Jesus, and He will take what appears to be not enough, and He'll do something great with it. He took 5 loaves and 2 fish and fed 5,000 men or 20,000 people. He took 7 loaves and a few fish and fed another 4,000 people. I'm sure the disciples were like, that's not enough. There's no way everyone's not even going to get a little bite. They won't even get to lick it. It'll be gone before everybody can even try and taste it. But we can take that little bit and give it all to Jesus, all that little bit that we have. And God can do something great. God can do something great with you too. He wants to do something great with you. But your job is to give all of yourself, all of your life, everything to Christ. Amen. And then you get to see Him do what only He can do, which is take something that doesn't seem like it's enough and make something that is more than enough. The second section I've titled this, Prove It, but we still won't believe. That's in verses 11 through 13. Jesus is tangling, again, with the Pharisees. And this is what the Pharisees basically say to Jesus. Prove it, or we still aren't going to believe you. After feeding the 4,000, Jesus gets into the boat with the 12, and they head to Dalmanutha. And as soon as they landed, it says in verse 11, the Pharisees came and began to argue with him, demanding of him a sign from heaven to test him. Sighing deeply in his spirit, he said, "Why does this generation demand a sign? Truly I tell you, no sign will be given to this generation." Then he left them, got back in the boat, and went to the other side. Now, this is not the first time the Pharisees have tangled with Jesus. Back in chapter 2, they tangled with him. In chapter 3, they tangled with him. In chapter 7, they tangled with him. They're going to tangle with him even more after this one. But in this encounter, they demand a sign from Jesus. I think a little bit of common sense would be helpful for these guys. I mean, have they not been paying attention? Have they not been paying attention to what Jesus has been doing all the way up to this point? Let's do a little recap, all right? And you just count out how many things we got here, all right? Here's the recap. Jesus is introduced to us in chapter 1, verse 1 as Jesus Christ, the Son of God. And at his baptism, the heavens are torn open, and the Spirit of God descends on him like a dove, and a voice from heaven bellows out, "You are my beloved Son, with you I am well pleased." That's off to a pretty good start, I would say. Time and time again, Jesus has proven what was said about him at that baptism through his miraculous actions. Jesus has proven because he had taught with authority. He cast out hundreds, if not thousands, of demons. He proved that he forgave sinners by also healing them, and he healed hundreds, if not thousands, of sick people, including Peter's mother-in-law, a man with leprosy, the paralytic, a man with a withered hand, the woman with a bleeding issue, and he even brought Jairus' daughter back to life. She was dead. He brought her back. Jesus fed 5,000 people, walked on water, commanded the waves and the winds, cast out a demon from a distance, restored the hearing and the speech of a deaf mute. He has taught them about the true meaning of the Sabbath laws, the cleanliness laws, the ritual purity, and fasting. He just finished feeding 4,000, proving time and time again that he had power both over the natural and the supernatural realm. And even on one occasion, he cast out a legion of demons. I would say the evidence is pretty overwhelming. But even in the face of this overwhelming evidence, they demanded a sign. Now, the text doesn't say it, and I can't prove it. But I think Jesus had an internal facepalm. I think that's what sighing deeply in his spirit means. He's just like, I can't prove it, but I feel that he was a man, right? I'm a man, that's what I would have done. I'd have been like, oh. These guys, they were looking for a fight. The text does say that they were putting him to a test, or they're trying to tempt him. And that's the same exact word that's used in chapter 1, verse 13, when it talks about Satan tempting Jesus, testing Jesus in the wilderness. These guys already had plenty of proof. They demanded a sign from heaven. Some shattering event blazing across the horizon, defying the laws of nature and astonishing everyone. And what is Jesus' response? Second time, he sighed deeply. The last time, back in chapter 7, verse 34. He's expressing his anguish, his grief, his sorrow, and even with all the evidence, they still wouldn't believe. And so Jesus refuses their test. He refuses the temptation, and then refers to them as this generation. And that's not something that you want to be referred to as, by the way. This generation. It never has a good connotation. I mean, you can hear people talking at Walmart like, "Can you believe this generation?" They never like, "Yeah, they're doing awesome things. They're fixing the planet." No, it's never a good thing. And it wasn't a good thing here either, because the same thing is used of the stubborn, disobedient, stiff-necked generation who wandered in the desert in Deuteronomy. If Jesus had given the Pharisees a sign of their choosing, they wouldn't need any faith at all. They would be compelled to believe because of their head, not their hearts. They wanted Jesus on their terms, but Jesus says that we must come to him on his terms. Calling for a sign is a denial of the radical faith that is at the heart of the gospel. These Pharisees were arrogant and insincere. Jesus knew their hearts. He knew that if he consented to their request for a sign, they still wouldn't believe. They would actually use that against him. They would be looking for ways to discredit his sign that he would have given him. They wanted another sign. And then they would want another sign. And then they would want another sign. And in essence, Jesus is saying, if you can't see God at work in me, nothing will convince you otherwise. I love the way that David Garland puts it in his commentary. He said, Jesus will offer this generation no noisy sign from heaven, only the wind whistling through an empty tomb after his crucifixion. I love that. People in this world will call for proof. Christians can sometimes be looking for a sign. What we need to do is we need to look back. Look at what God has already done. Look at God's faithfulness to us all along the way. We don't need another sign from God to prove that he's going to be faithful to us today. He's already proven it to us. We just need to believe. Amen. There was nothing more that Jesus could say. There was nothing more that could be done. So he just leaves. He leaves them there standing on the shore. And again, I can't prove it from the text, but I imagine that their mouths were open. Just left. The third section goes back to the disciples, and they're in a boat. I've entitled this section, the disciples still don't understand. We expect the Pharisees not to get it, right? We expect them to misunderstand. But we don't expect it from the disciples. Apparently, they only snagged one loaf of bread for the journey, right? Even though they had collected 7 large basketfuls of leftovers, it appears that they're discussing and probably blaming each other about their lack of planning. Thaddeus, I told you to grab the bread, man. I don't know why I was picking on Thaddeus. I figured he's the one. Not only had they forgotten to bring bread, they forgot who was in the boat with them. Jesus, hearing their conversation, decides to take advantage of a teachable moment. And so Jesus warns them, watch out, beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and the leaven of Herod. They think that Jesus was getting on to them because they forgot bread. But they misunderstood. So if Jesus wasn't getting on to them because they had forgotten bread, then what was it that Jesus meant here by the leaven of the Pharisees and the leaven of Herod? Well, leaven, or yeast, even in a small amount of it, has an incredible effect. You know, I used to make my own bread. Well, let me back up a second. I had a bread maker. And I used to dump all the ingredients for bread into the bread maker, and it would make the bread for me. And I remember the first time that I ever did it, I thought to myself, as I put the yeast in, the little bitty packet of yeast, I thought, that's not much. There's no way it's going to work out. I hope this is right. I hope the recipe wasn't misprinted. I hope I'm not supposed to, like they come in a packet of 3, right? There's 3. I thought maybe I should rip them all open and dump them all in, but I followed the instructions on the packet. And it worked. The bread began to rise and rise and rise and rise and rise. And soon it was larger than the bread maker pan. It was pushing against the top and it lifted it up a little bit. Eventually it did go back down, but man, it did rise. I couldn't believe it. That little bitty amount of yeast affected the whole lump of dough. In the Bible, leaven or yeast is always seen as a contamination. It's often used to describe the infection of sin and of unbelief, and the results of that unbelief. You see, at that time, they would take a pinch of leavening. They would take a pinch of the dough that was leavened already, and they would set that back, and they would put it in some water, they'd make sure it was really juicy and wet. They'd keep it moist so it would grow the necessary yeast and bacteria. And then they would use that in their next batch of bread they were going to make. So they already had this kind of starter piece, right? And what I understand is that maybe my grandparents or great-grandparents did this as well. They put it up on the back of the stove every week. And seeing some heads nodding here. But there was a really good chance that this little lump, this little leavened lump, would spoil. That it would grow too many yeast, too many bacteria, and it would poison the next batch of dough. Hard-hearted unbelief had consumed the Pharisees and Herod. It took control of their whole lives. Herod, upon hearing about Jesus, thought that he was just actually John the Baptist raised from the dead back in chapter 6. And he quickly dismissed the miracles of Jesus as impossible because dead men don't rise from the dead. Well, so he thought. The Pharisees had continually rejected Jesus, even from the beginning, plotting his death. So Jesus is warning the disciples not to go down that path of unbelief. Jesus had been revealing to them who he was. He was teaching them spiritual truths. And they were still stuck on the physical. Jesus asks them 9 questions in our text today. 9 questions. Why are you discussing the fact that you have no bread? In verse 17. Don't you understand or comprehend? Sadly, they didn't. Do you have hardened hearts? Apparently they did. Do you have eyes and not see? Which is actually a quote from Old Testament prophecy. They didn't. Do you have ears and not hear? No, they didn't. Do you not remember? Apparently they didn't. In verse 19, when I fed the 5,000, how many baskets full did you collect? 12. Yeah. And when I fed the 4,000, how many basketfuls did you collect? Again, 7. And then verse 21, probably the toughest question. Don't you understand yet? Don't you understand yet? Apparently they didn't. Jesus wasn't trying to shame them, but teach them. They were worried that they didn't have enough bread, yet time and time again, Jesus provided for their every need. They didn't even need a loaf of bread, the one that they had and brought with them, because they had the bread of life in the boat. Amen. Jesus' last question includes the word yet. I'm glad it does. Because Jesus had hope that they would eventually get it. They were definitely slow learners. But so am I. And maybe you are too. We often lack confidence in the truth of Luke chapter 1, verse 37. For nothing will be impossible with God. We are unsure that we can be like Paul in Philippians chapter 4, verses 12 through 13, where he says, I know both how to make do with little and I know how to make do with a lot. In any and all circumstances, I've learned the secret to being content. Whether well-fed or hungry, whether in abundance or in need, I am able to do all things through him who strengthens me. And then we doubt the truth of Philippians chapter 4, verse 19, where Paul says, my God will supply all of your needs according to his glorious riches in Christ Jesus. You see, Jesus has been faithful to us in the past. And he will continue to be faithful to us now and long into the future. There was a man named Polycarp. He was actually the personal disciple of the Apostle John. He became the Bishop of Smyrna. And as he faced death, they urged him to abandon his faith and worship false gods so that he could save his own life. What was his response? 86 years have I served him, and he has done me no wrong. How can I blaspheme my King and my Savior? He was then burned alive. Sometimes we're like the disciples. We see the great work of God in our lives, but we still doubt that he can or will help us today. They forgot they were with Jesus, and they had all that they needed. And as we begin to wrap up today, I have a question that I want to ask. Have you forgotten? Psalm 103 verses 1 and 2 asks this question too. David says, my soul bless the Lord, and all that is within me bless his holy name. My soul bless the Lord, and do not forget all his benefits. And then David goes on to recite all the great things that God had done and was doing. He was reciting God's goodness, so that he wouldn't forget and give up in the midst of his current struggle. And here's how it works for most of us. God meets our need, and we're thankful, but we don't actually go and thank him. We pray for his help, and then when he helps, we're like the 9 lepers, and we don't go back and thank God for it. And then when the next problem arises, we complain, or we become frightened, or we worry that we'll never make it through. But as long as we're with Jesus, we can be sure that he will care for us. It would do us well on occasion to pause and remind ourselves of the goodness and faithfulness of God. In fact, I'm going to give you homework. I've never given you homework, have I? I'm going to give you homework today, sometime this afternoon. I want you to sit down for a moment, and I want you to write a list of all the ways that God has been faithful and good to you. I'm not going to put a number on it, but if your list is less than 10, you should probably think a little harder. And if you're having trouble coming up with something, just open up your refrigerator. Because there's people all over our world, even in our country, even in our county, even in this city, that don't have food. So every jar of pickles that you haven't opened in 3 weeks, or salsa that's been sitting there since January, or the jug of milk that says contains milk, that's a gift of God. It would do us well to remember how good God has been to us. Jesus' warning is that we believe and trust in him, that we would avoid the hard-hearted unbelief of Israel. Israel had a long history of unbelief, by the way. Psalm 95 is a reminder, a song of warning of their hard-heartedness. David writes in Psalm 95, verses 7 and 8, "Today, if you hear his voice, do not harden your hearts, as on that day in the wilderness." God had brought them through all of those things. The author of Hebrews continues with this warning and calls us to encourage. He quotes Psalm 95. And he says, "Encourage each other today, while it's still called today, so that none of you is hardened by sin's deception." And he quotes this verse, "If you hear his voice, do not harden your hearts." He reminded them that all those people who saw the 10 plagues, all of those people who saw God crush Pharaoh's army in the sea, all of those who saw the cloud by day and the pillar of fire by night, all of those who drank the water from the rock, all of those who ate the birds, all of those who ate the bread from heaven, all of those were the same ones who disobeyed God at the base of Mount Sinai by worshiping a golden calf. They'd seen it with their eyes, and they forgot. The Bible tells us that God was angry with them for 40 years and left that generation, this generation, to die in the wilderness. Seeing to it that none of them entered the promised land because of their unbelief, save two. The Israelites, the disciples, you and I, we often have dull minds, deaf ears, blind eyes, and hard hearts. We were like the deaf man at the end of Mark chapter 7 and the blind man we're going to talk about next week. The good news is that Jesus healed the deaf man, and he will heal the blind man. Our condition doesn't have to be permanent. Even though we may not understand, even though we might not see, God can open our eyes, and he calls us today not only to believe in him, but to trust him. There's this great tightrope walker known as the Great Blondin, or Blondine. I don't know how to pronounce it, I'm guessing. In the late 1890s, he strung a tightrope across Niagara Falls, and then before 10,000 screaming people, confidently made his way across the rope and returned to where he began. When he got back to the side, the crowd was shouting his name, "Blondine, Blondine, Blondine." And he raised his arms, and he told the crowd that he was going to do it this time without his pole. And so he went back and he came forth, and the crowd was amazed, and it cheered even louder. And turning to the crowd, he announced that he would make a third trip, this time pushing a wheelbarrow. So Some cheered, others were skeptical. But he set off down the road and back again. He came. He turned to the crowd and asked, "Do you think I could do this with a wheelbarrow loaded down with cement?" This time they responded with great confidence after seeing him push the wheelbarrow down and back. They believed he could do it. And again, he performed the task with the greatest of ease. Blondine turned to the crowd one final time and asked, "Do you believe that I could wheel a person across in this wheelbarrow? Across these great falls?" Their response was overwhelming. "We believe! We believe!" He raised his hand, quieting the crowd again, and asked, "Who's going to get in the wheelbarrow?" You heard a pin drop. The disciples' problem, our problem, is not just that we're blind and deaf, but we don't even realize that we are blind and deaf. We shout with the crowd, "We believe! We believe!" But when it comes time to put our faith into practice, we fail to act. We fail to trust. We fail to believe. We fail to follow through. We are all talk and we are no action. Jesus still has a plan. When we are staring at the problem, we don't see the plan, but Jesus has that plan, and we need to quit focusing on the difficulties and start focusing on the deliverer. Amen. We must not forget. The disciples saw the difficulty in the desert, and Jesus came through. The disciples saw difficulty in the boat, and Jesus came through. His warning was, don't follow the Pharisees. Don't follow Herod. Follow me. What is it that we're in jeopardy of forgetting? The first thing is that only Jesus satisfies. It's the same lesson from the feeding miracle. See, Jesus promises something and he delivers on. He satisfies us. Sin promises something that it cannot deliver. We think that we can find the satisfaction that we need and the nourishment for our souls in this world. And what happens is sin leaves us feeling empty. We end up feeling dirty. We end up feeling guilty. Have you forgotten that only Jesus satisfies? Second, we're in jeopardy of forgetting that only Jesus shows us compassion. You know, people turn to the government, they turn to their work, they turn to their accomplishments, or they even turn to other people to find comfort in their lives. Many others in our world turn to idols, like money, power, possessions, fleshly lusts, and other things like it. Those things will always fail you. They will always let you down. Not only do they not show compassion, they actually punish you when you don't deliver or perform the way that they want you to. Jesus' compassion, though, it never fails. Jesus died for you to secure your forgiveness. Jesus' love for you is everlasting. Have you forgotten the great compassion of Jesus? And the third thing that we might be in danger of remembering is that only Jesus saves. Too often we let guilt take control of our lives. We become overwhelmed. We begin to think that there's no way that God will forgive me for that. We think that we have walked too far away from God. You know, as he lay dying, John Newton, author of the famous hymn Amazing Grace, whispered to his friend these words, his final words. My memory is nearly gone, but I remember two things. That I am a great sinner, and that Christ is a great Savior.
Amen.
I love that. And written in the flesh and blood of Jesus is our forgiveness. Christ died on the cross so that sin could be forgiven and a new life could be found in him. And that gift is available for all who will believe. But I think sometimes we forget that only Jesus saves. And in our conversations, we don't offer him as an answer for anything. We turn to pop psychology, we turn to some wisdom that our grandmother gave us. Those people need to turn to Jesus. I'm not saying your grandma's not an amazing woman, but Jesus can't save them. I mean, your grandma can't save them. Jesus can. Jesus can save them. Don't fall into the trap of Herod. Don't fall into the trap of the Pharisees. Today, if you hear his voice, do not harden your hearts. Will you put your faith and trust in Jesus today?